United States Soccer Federation presents the U.S. Soccer Podcast.
I'm your host, Megan Klingenberg. One thing I promised you is an all-access pass that you wouldn't get on any other show. And we found out that whoever comes on scores a goal. Burhope, Freeman, Trusty. U.S. Soccer Podcast magic is real, people. We still got plenty of coverage all throughout this World Cup. Okay, let's get into it.
The U.S. Soccer Podcast, presented by Henkel. Follow and listen on your favorite platform.
Be weather aware later tomorrow night. Some storms rolling through central Alabama. We're going to talk some Braves baseball coming up. Hopefully the weather will cooperate in St. Louis, Missouri tonight, as we have I'm sorry, there was some breaking news that was popping up on my screen. Did you see that?
Yes.
Okay. Just making sure we all saw it.
Yep.
We will verify some things.
Yes, and that is.
We talk about it.
And we can, but that's been confirmed that there's been a statement that's been released.
Okay. All right. Barrett Sallee from the Braves Radio Network is going to join us now, talk about the Braves' upcoming series this weekend in St. Louis. We're just talking, Barrett. Hopefully the weather is going to cooperate because it's some bad weather in central Missouri today, so maybe they'll be able to get this in.
Why are we doing the weather thing? Why are we doing this? Are you jinxing it?
No, he's not jinxing it. He's just, St. Louis, it's either unbearably hot or you're going to get thunderstorms.
I mean, it's going to be 85 and stormy, so it's better than 105 and sunny.
I think Pat's just trying to get out of the Cardinals train playing the Braves.
No, actually, Barrett, we did pretty good in Atlanta. We're not really too worried about the 2 out of the 3 that we took in Atlanta, so no, not very worried.
We've won 2 straight, Barrett.
All right.
Did you let out a big roll tide roll yesterday for Jim Jarvis?
I can never do that, but I was thinking it. Actually, I was talking to him. One of the camera guys for one of our local stations is a Bama guy who used to work in Birmingham, and we both were talking to Jim Jarvis, and then finally I was like, "There's way too much Bama here. I got to leave," and just walked away. I can't do it.
Too much Bama. That's what they used to say in the college football playoff.
Yeah, back in the day.
Hey, yeah, that's true. That is true.
I want to go back a couple.
That's not there anymore.
I want to go back a couple days because this is why I love baseball so much. So you're sitting there and you've got a pitcher throwing a perfect game for Pittsburgh. He's on a pitch count. He leaves the game, and it's one of those games where you keep it close. It's no score, and it just takes a bloop and a hit and maybe a bomb, and then all of a sudden things turn around. And that's exactly what happened for Atlanta to get that win. And then, of course, that it parlayed that into a big win yesterday. Kind of take us back a couple days with that big, impressive win late against the Pirates.
Yeah, I think everybody sort of knew that he was on a pitch count. And I know the easy thing is to criticize him and say these pitchers are soft and blah, 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 and all that other stuff. But this is a guy who throws 100 but is still coming off the internal brace surgery. And the internal brace surgery is still like new, right? It's, it's not something that is like there's a set sort of rehab method for it. So, I think for the Braves, they knew like that guy was going to throw a perfect game or a no-hitter or a one-hitter. They knew that, but they also knew that he wasn't going to be around very long. So, I think for Walt, that was sort of the game plan, was somehow get to the bullpen because their bullpen is not good at all. And they did it. So, I think everybody we talked to were super complimentary of Jared Jones, and they like him a lot. They feel like he's one of the future stars for the Pirates. But he's still, like I said, coming off the internal brace. There's no necessarily a blueprint for how you recover. So, it was kind of the plan all along for them. They knew it. Jared Jones knew it. Everybody knew it. And, it's unfortunate that for him that he didn't get a chance to throw that perfect game. But at least the Braves got that win. Joey Bart was awesome. And then last night, or yesterday afternoon, I should say, just putting up crooked numbers. They seem like they're putting up more crooked numbers now. And that's been something that has kind of they've kind of avoided that the last month and change. And that's a big reason why they've struggled. But now you're back at it. And to see guys like Yaz and Jim Jarvis, not necessarily normal contributors actually play big roles, it's nice to see and a good sign for the future.
Yeah, and you still have the Austin Riley conundrum, and we can kind of get into that. But Walt Weiss, he's been around a long time. He's been a manager before. He's been with the Braves, and he has seen stretches like that in the past. But you have an interesting perspective from your vantage point of being there on the network. You get to see interactions and how they interact with one another in the clubhouse. How has he managed that Braves clubhouse over the last month, Barrett?
Yeah, I mean, Walt is hands-on when he needs to be. You know, he's, I think, insinuated that he's maybe voiced his frustration maybe a little bit more than Snit would have. But he always says he's going to keep those conversations private, which is the right thing to do. But any good clubhouse doesn't really need a manager. You know, the whole point of having a leader is for that leader to do what the manager doesn't want to do and shouldn't need to do, and that's, you know, provide some inspiration and kick somebody in the butt here and there. So I think to that end, Walt has been sort of hoping that somebody would take that and run with it, and I think there have been guys that have done that. But, you know, 3 weeks into June, I think Walt basically had enough and was like, all right, I got to do something here. And I wouldn't say that we know exactly what was said, but he certainly insinuated that something was said. And, you know, I think for that, you know, Walt is he's a good feel of his team because he's been around them. And I don't think that they would take that negatively. In fact, I would think that they would take that positively. And if you go back a couple years, Snit actually did have to do that. There was a famous time in Arizona in a 4-game set where Snit just lost it behind the closed doors. We don't know exactly what he said, but we know something was said. And since at that point they took off and, you know, basically were a playoff team from there on out. They looked good. They looked consistent. So that might be the case right now and with what's happening, because Walt, I think, definitely suggested that something was said.
You know, it's interesting, Barrett, as I was doing a deep dive on some of the numbers over the last couple of weeks for Atlanta, everything kind of coincides with Matt Olson, because when Olson kind of did not have the power stroke going, then all of a sudden he finds it again, and then the rest of the team have picked it up. So it's kind of interesting how the power skid coincided with the Braves hitting not as many home runs, not just because he's a great power hitter, but the rest of the team. Kind of talk about how he goes, the rest of the team goes.
Yeah, you know, I think with Matt, when he's dangerous, and look, Matt's always a threat, but they know if he's in a slump, and Matt has gone into some slides before, not huge ones, but, you know, he's a little streaky. So if it's a downturn, then Ozzy's not going to be seeing more as many pitches to hit. Drake, Michael, however the lineup is set up, those guys in front of Matt, you know, now are getting a ton of pitches to hit because Matt's a threat again. At that elite level. So, yeah, it does kind of go as Matt goes, so does the rest of the team. And, you know, you have those guys. Freddie was the same way, but Freddie was a little bit more consistent. But, yeah, Matt, I think he understands how big of a role he has. And even if he's not at his best, he needs to at least give off the impression that he is, because so many things fall into line. It's kind of the same with Ronald Acuna Jr., right? Ronald didn't have a great year last year after he got back, even though he was an all-star, but that was mostly a hometown thing. Ronald wasn't having a great year this year, but it doesn't really matter. It's the threat, and that changes the approach for other teams and pitchers and things like that. So, you know, it matters a lot, and I don't necessarily think just the presence of certain players and how that changes the approaches gets recognized as much as maybe it should.
Hanging out with Barrett Sallee, pre-and post-game host of the Atlanta Braves Radio Network, part of 680 The Fan. He joins us here on Three Man Front. All of our guests join us on the Higginbotham Hotline. We got the All-Star break coming up shortly. Not long after that, we'll get the Major League Baseball trade deadline. Seeing a lot of news on the 36-year-old right-handed pitcher, Sonny Gray, and his connection potentially to the Braves. What can you tell us not only on Sonny Gray and that connection, but also other rumblings and rumors you're hearing?
Well, I think the biggest thing with the Braves, with all of these rumors, either it's those agents leaking that information or people just making stuff up, or hearing information from other teams. The Braves, that place is on lock like it has the nuclear codes, man. They are not going to let anything out of there. So that doesn't mean they're necessarily not interested in Sonny Gray, but that information will not come from anybody connected with the Braves. So his agent might be posturing, Joe Ryan's agent might be posturing, Scooble, whatever, and that's fine. But, I think for the Braves, that is, they understand that those representatives or other teams are going to do that for leveraging purposes. But Alex Anthopoulos is a ninja, man. He knows what he's doing, and he will allow and encourage that type of activity from other teams on purpose. And I think Sonny Gray will be mentioned. I think Joe Ryan will be mentioned. And this is not something I've heard, and certainly not from the Braves, but could Casey Mize be one of those guys? He's a free agent, and he's not making a ton. Maybe you do a trade and sign like they did with Matt Olson with a guy like Casey Mize, who isn't going to demand all that much because he's a free agent. So there are options out there, and I know the Braves are interested. But again, I take anything you hear about the Braves being interested. If you see those words, the Braves being interested, take that with multiple grains of salt.
Got to ask you about the NL East standings. It's gotten pretty interesting now as we head to the second half of the season after the All-Star break. The Phillies and Marlins, how would you sum up those two franchises, and can they make a run and make this interesting against Atlanta in the second half?
Yeah, they can. I mean, the Phillies pitching, if Nola's good and Sanchez is what he has been, and I think they're dangerous because that you add in Zach Wheeler, that's really scary. I think their offense is old, and that's the thing, is how healthy will they be? The thing with the Marlins is, and I said this before the season, I wasn't worried about the Marlins competing for the division. Now I am, but I said they are going to be a pain in the you-know-what for anybody they play, and they are going to have a big say in who wins the division because they will beat teams consistently at a pretty high level. Steal bases, they know who they are, they're not going to sway from it. So now that the Marlins are sort of in this thing, yeah, they scare me a little bit. Not as much as the Phillies, but I wouldn't discount them at all.
Barrett, do you know what happened on July 10th of 2021?
July 10th of 2021 is the day that the Braves traded for Jock Peterson, correct?
Well, no, it actually says here that Ronald Acuna Jr. tore his right ACL, ending his 21 season.
Oh, yeah. That was in July? It feels like it was earlier than that.
It was right before the All-Star break. I remember where I was. I was in Gulf Shores when it happened. Yep.
I guess it was.
Yep. And then the Braves go on to win the World Series. So
yeah, that worked out well for everybody involved except Ronald, because even though he got a ring,
that's right.
Still.
What is the expectation on Ronald in his return?
He's probably going to go out on a rehab during the All-Star break, and Walt told us last week, a couple days ago actually, that the expectation is for him to be back with the Braves, if not the first week of after the All-Star break, shortly thereafter. So he will be coming to a minor league park near you most likely next week.
It sure would be nice to have him on a consistent basis, just saying, from one fan.
It would be helpful, yes. That would be very helpful.
Come on, Ronnie. Can't make the club in the tub. That's what Trooper Taylor used to say.
Get it together. Get it together.
All right, Barrett, we will be listening. We appreciate you joining us. Go Braves. Let's get at least 2 out of 3 from Pat's hated Cardinals.
2 out of 3 from Pat's hated Cardinals. I like it.
All right, brother. We'll talk to you next week.
All right, see y'all.
Barrett Sallee, Braves Radio Network, the pre- and post-game host. You can hear him during rain delays, comprehensive coverage, and Barrett does a wonderful job And a lot of you Braves fans let us know that. He joined us on the Higginbotham Hotline. You deserve solutions that are built for you. Higginbotham is your one-source solution for insurance, financial, and HR services. In case you missed it, ESPN's FBI, college football for 2026, it's out. Where is your team? We're going to tell you next on Three Man Front.
Jim Rome takes on sports.
I will always have a complicated relationship with this game, but people evolve. So do sports. Do not make me regret this. Do not make me devolve back to that guy that so many clones wish that I still was. And do not embarrass the entire country. Now, I can go back. I can get there fast. Lose tonight, and you got a real problem. Do not blow it.
The Jim Rome Show podcast.
You've been warned.
Follow and listen on your favorite platform.